given how things are changing and where humanity, our society is going, I think people will be lonelier and less connected. So my dream definitely would be to build something or gather people together so they would build something together. And that's what I try to do in my team. Like, that's going to be a bigger dream for me. Have like 50 or 100 people build something together.
Shakir, coffee, tea, or something else? What fuels your mornings?
Coffee all day, twice a day actually. I
Both.
have
Okay.
big coffee addict.
Nice. All right. And when
Yeah.
you were a kid, what did you think you'd grow up to be?
Uh, I grew up in Soviet Union, and there were these sort of cliche jobs you wanna have. One of them either a cop or astronaut. So I mean, you could guess. I chose the astronaut for sure.
That
Yeah,
is very cool. So that's
yeah,
what, like, textbook people wanted to be either or?
yeah. Like every
Yeah.
kid in Soviet Union would probably give you either of those two answers.
Interesting. Oh, I never knew
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Never knew
yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah.
What's one technology that you can't live without?
Uh, so this is going to be a sort of spoof answer, I think, and I came to it maybe like a couple years ago. It's a phone. Just
Yeah.
ability to call someone and clarify things and talk. I feel like that's the strongest thing to do. But apart from that, I want to say either coffee machine or my Kindle, like reading books in
Yeah.
one device. I think it's like one of the best things I use every day.
You're a big reader, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think about the Kindle app on the iPhone? I tried to get
I'm
into it, but
interesting. I never used it.
okay, okay, cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know how
yeah,
well it syncs. It
yeah.
wasn't great
Okay.
for me from my
Uh-huh.
Kindle to that, but I was just curious if you had a different experience.
You use it to read also
Yeah, I
on the
tried. Yeah. Well,
interesting.
I thought it would be better because, as a guy, you don't
Hmm.
always have bags and stuff like that. And I was like, if you're killing time instead of scrolling, I'll just pull up
Right.
the app and then I can read.
Hmm.
Um, instead of being like as intentional to have my Kindle with me, but I just never got into it. So still
I
the
see,
Kindle.
I see. Yeah, yeah. I'm so used to the ink screen, so when I try to read
Yeah.
something on phone screen, I'm like, oh, I can't do it.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you could fast forward 10 years and see one impact that your work's made on the world, what would you want that to be?
I don't know exactly, but given how things are changing and where humanity, our society is going, I think people will be lonelier and less connected. So my dream definitely would be to um, build something or gather people together so they would build something together. And that's what I try to kind of to do in my team, like just build things together, guys, instead of silos. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's going to be a bigger dream for me to have like 50 or 100 people build something together.
I like that. I like that. Enabling that collaboration. That's very cool.
Yeah, yeah. We'll chat
All
more
right.
about
Well,
that. I think this is one of the biggest topics in my past, I think, or career.
yeah, I love to dive into that. But everyone, welcome to Machine Minds. I'm your host, Greg Tarusian, founder of Samson Rose, your robotics talent search partner. And on today's episode, I'm joined by Shakir Dzheyranov, founder and CEO of HelloRobo. Thanks for being on the show today.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Greg.
Pleasure. Let's jump into it. Um, so you started your career, if we're going back, it was more in like design and art direction. So can you tell us how that journey led you into the robotics space?
Yeah, I started my career, I think like 15, 16 years ago, and the main portion of that time was dedicated to visual arts, advertising design, motion design, and then I spent some time at Nike doing marketing efforts, marketing design as well. But in the last sort of 6 years of my path, I made a big switch and I changed my path towards product design, or these days people call it UX design, right? And the reason
Yeah.
I wanted to do that is because I mean a lot of the aspects in design is very visual and aesthetical, and then there are a lot of subjectivity, right? But as soon as I kind of started learning about product design, I'm like, oh, you can make those design decisions, but they should be tied to real business problems or user problems. And some of them, a lot of times, are quantifiable. For example, we have a problem. Our app has a lot of users, but they're not coming back. And then a product designer would say, how about we design a sophisticated notification system that could pull those people back? And then that could be done in a beautiful way too, but it also solves a specific problem. And that to me was like, that's super interesting. And I feel like I can sort of justify my decisions as a designer and later on as a design director. I should probably add there was a commercial aspect too. Very quickly, I also learned that product designers make way more money than, let's say, marketing designers or even like specialists like 3D designers. And I still feel
Yeah.
like it's in the at least tech world, probably it's still the truth. If you're a very strong product designer, you'd probably make more than your other peers, I'd say. And then at some point when the COVID started, at that time there was a startup I used to work at called Fair. They were trying to redefine the automotive industry. And the COVID started. I was in LA, and I always wanted to to live in New York, and I asked my manager, "Hey, is it okay if I move to New York and work from there?" And remote was sort of a new thing back then, that people were
Yeah.
like trying things, and some people were imagining things like, oh, the entire world will go remote, right? And my boss at that time, she was like, yeah, sure, go for it as long as you do your work. And I moved there, and I'm like, wow, that's cool. I can work remotely. And then I think like the next month I put my notice. I said, oh, I'm going full freelance. And that was the sort of pivoting moment in my career where I kind of put a stop on my full-time career and started doing freelance. And freelance quickly grew into bigger projects that were requiring more people. I couldn't do it just on IC level. Like I needed to assemble teams. And it was year 2021, I think. And at that time, I realized I either start a company and build teams sort of to pick that design processes I've established in my career and follow them, or I do it on my own and kill myself. So I picked the team. And at that time, we were doing a lot of product design, but all our clients were very, I guess, from different worlds. There were crypto clients, fintech clients, there were automotive clients. And I guess I wasn't comfortable with that idea. I was like, I think we shouldn't be design agency for everyone. We should be for someone. And I think that was a pivotal moment when I was somewhere in the train and thought like, oh, we definitely should be the company for robotics. And simply because I'm a huge fan of robotics. Since I was a kid, I always dreamed about Transformers or like what it is like to have a robot at home. And I'm like,
Yeah.
cool, I will do that. And the answer is pretty simple. Like, let's just do that. But at that time, we didn't have a lot of expertise. That was like around 3 to 4 years ago. But I had a lot of connections that helped me to sort of start talking with the right people. One of them is Sandeep Yati. He's the head of product robotics at TerraDepth. He's like, Shaq, maybe your first step would be not working with commercial clients, but rather contributing to community. I think you should talk with these people from Open Robotics. And that's how our journey started too, actually. They're like, hey guys, are you open to contributing to our community? We said yes. Cool, let's dive into it. And I think from the first
Wow.
month, we started helping them with Gazebo and then with other design efforts.
So you didn't
So yeah.
have robotics clients first.
No, we
You
had a
was
lot
like,
of
well,
automotive, but
yeah,
I should correct myself and explain you more about our company later on. We do have robotics adjacent clients. For example,
yeah,
Surfair is one of our major clients. They do private aviation, and a couple of our projects we're doing for them is joint efforts with Palantir. So it's not directly robotics, but there is a lot of fleet management or like
right.
when you operate or a dispatcher. Um, So a lot of our kind of knowledge came from, let's say, robotics adjacent products.
Of course.
But the first real community was actually open robotics,
That's
Ross.
very cool. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can relate. Yeah, I can relate a lot to that. When I first started my business, I was like, hey, I'm going to work in technology and startups across the board. And I was always passionate in robotics. One of my first clients was in robotics. And I was like, why am I trying to be everything to everyone? This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I
Mm,
believe in. This is before it was as hot as it is right now. So,
hmm
uh, but then there's a lot of adjacent, even now as a
hmm
robotics talent search company, we still work with transportation, drones,
Right.
advanced manufacturing, things like that, that are robotics in a way, but it's not like traditional AMRs, right? Or humanoids.
Yeah.
So there's a lot in there. So I can totally relate. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So that's how you jumped into that. And so what made you think like, I'm going to assemble this team with this type of background? Because it's a very unique team, right? I've seen like the brands that you guys
Mm,
have all worked at and
hmm
things like that. How did you decide like these are the types of people, this is the direction I'm going to go for, um,
hmm
or a robotics kind of direction as a company? How did you connect
Yeah.
those dots?
Um, let's start with the hiring part, and I would love to talk more about it with you.
Yeah,
Um, in design, if let's say you understand the core product design principles, which is talk with users, do research, solve problems for them, you can sort of take your expertise, let's say from, I don't know, healthcare, and you can comfortably translate that into robotics.
yeah,
And that's what we sort of try to educate a lot of our clients. Um, so when I was hiring people, if someone has a robotics expertise, that's already a huge plus. For example, there is this designer, Julia, we hired. She built her experience in robotics with this company called Arrival. They used to be pretty big. It's a UK-based company. They do a lot of automation. But then a lot of designers we hired, they don't have that experience, to be honest, in the
yeah.
beginning. And that there are three core skills, and that we help Bedrock Robotics with hiring too with these skills when we were helping them find talent. Um, Product thinker, can you actually understand the user? If, let's say, in the example of robotics, like, can you talk with the operator and understand what he or she is scared of when performing a task? The second skill is, are you a visual thinker? Like, can you solve those problems, but beautifully, like purely aesthetical part? And the third part, which I think is very relevant, not only to robotics, but like tech world in general, is we call it at HelloRobo, embrace chaos. Can you pivot together with a company? I mean, obviously people complain, but without complaining too much, because you work on one product today, but like a month later, leadership says, you know what, we chatted with investors and we think we should focus on this particular feature. And a lot of designers, not only designers, even engineers, they can't really embrace chaos. So these are the three skills when we're hiring people, we kind of look after.
That's really cool. I like
Yeah.
that. And I think it's very much needed when you're working with startups and you're working with, because even if you're working with a company that's like, hey, this is the direction, this is the directive, go and do that. They can pivot and change on a dime as a startup. Like, hey, actually, you're going
hmm
into a new industry and they're not going to want to cut your project. So you have to be adaptable and, like,
hmm
say, embrace that chaos. Um, Very cool. So I know we didn't talk about this very specifically, but
hmm
can you give a crisp description of HelloRobo's mission and offering? And I've actually got my
hmm
HelloRobo swag on today, so thank you for sending that. Great
You're
top.
very, very welcome. Super happy and proud to see you wearing it. And yeah, we should talk about HelloRobo.
Yeah,
Essentially, we're a product design agency for robotics and automation. We help them. Our core service is UX design. And when it comes to very tangible things, they say, what do you guys build? We help robotics and automation companies design software pieces like operating software. You give a task, see the machine perform the task, Did it do well? Did it not do well? Do you have, as a user, full control of that task while the machine is performing it? The second thing is a lot of people come to us to design fleet management. Can you understand what's happening to your fleet, whether it's aircraft, excavators, drones? Where are they geographically? Are they, without kind of giving too much details, are they broken or are they about to break? Like, can you actually
Yeah.
predict the future with fleet management? So these are the two main pieces of software design we do. Sometimes companies come to us to do brand identity. We don't do much of that. But when we do, we tie it to product too. We kind of understand how the product works and we say, hey, let's say map is your core feature. We're actually going to build a brand based on that feature because your users know you for that feature.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long answer, but we're product
No, no,
design
no.
agency. Yeah.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned briefly before that you
Mm.
work with Bedrock Robotics, who obviously, if you're in the
Mm.
robotic space, you've seen raise a lot of money, stellar team. Most people would probably look at like, oh, a startup with that probably isn't going to outsource, right?
Mhm.
We had them on the show as well recently, so people should be familiar. But you work with them on fleet management software, right? For their
Both. We
construction team.
started with operating software and then
Okay.
we transitioned to fleet management too. So it's sort of both aspects.
Awesome. So can you share more like what was unique about that project and what you saw as like the biggest design challenge in autonomous robotic systems for construction?
Yeah. I should also emphasize that that was the one of the bigger names that came to us and we started working, and that helped us to establish our name in the robotics community a lot. So I want to give shout out to everyone, to Boris, Kevin, Stu, and the app team. They are one of the best partners we worked with. As soon as we went to their office in New York, I remember I was with our partnerships manager, Joe, and we left the office and he told me, can I cuss here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead.
He said, "Fuck, man, they're for real." And I think this is such a kind of distilled into two words. The feeling that we got, everybody in that team, they just wanted to build some. And I'm just making an assumption there. I feel like it's coming from Boris, like that builder mentality. Everybody's there, like we don't really care about politics. We like each other. Let's build something together. And that
Yeah,
atmosphere was very contagious. And I I became part of it, and then our designers who worked on that project became part of it. We just wanted to build something for them. And then the main challenge, and I feel like that's for probably almost every robotics company, was as of today, in at least in the UX or design world, there are not many design patterns established when it comes to designing, operating, or fleet management software. Because this technology is quite new. We don't have like, I don't know, 50 years of something established. And it comes to, let's say, let's pick one feature. Let's say you have a digital twin. This is a relatively new feature, and there are hundreds of ways you could interpret it as a designer. And that was a challenge for us because we're like, okay, we need to design a lot of new things. What is the best way to approach it? Maybe instead of looking for references, right? A lot of designers go look at other products or design libraries and look for references. We started actually talking with operators on the construction side, and Bedrock team was kind enough to provide them for us. And we were asking them questions. Hey, when you give this task, what do you expect to happen? How would you imagine that if it's on a screen or if it's in a tablet? So we were
yeah,
asking a lot of psychological and sort of non-leading questions that later on turned into design solutions. So that's the main challenge. And I feel like you need to be open-minded enough as a designer to, instead of going to established patterns, come up with new ones. And again, the product team was so open. They were like, guys, we understand we need to design new patterns. So we're with you. So they were very collaborative in that matter.
nice. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. One of my
What's
favorite
this?
projects for sure.
I mean, it's an awesome company, awesome project, and team, right? So I can only imagine
Hmm.
like working with people like that with a perspective and viewpoint and backing that they've got probably just amplified what you guys can do because there's if you don't have the right partner and people are resistant or skeptical and like keep putting up barriers and instead of like you say, hey, let's just build something awesome, it creates a weird environment for you to do
Hmm.
your best work as well.
I
And I think
agree.
that's
Yeah,
across
there
the
creates
board.
some pressure for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So what's the sweet spot that HelloRobo aims for when like how do you define an interface between hardware and user experience design? Like how does that work?
Hmm. As of today, I can tell where we bring a lot of value is there are probably not many apps that help you operate the robot, right? Or machine or excavator. So we bring a lot of values like, hey, let's design this mobile app or tablet app or a desktop app for fleet management. As the time goes, I'm making weird assumptions, predictions right now, and we talk a lot about that with our team. And I tell them, guys, probably the way we look at interfaces in a traditional format probably will change. It may be voice interaction, and it's purely voice interface, or
Yeah.
it could be a screen on the machine itself. Like there are a lot of sort of companies who are sort of adopting that, but it's early. Or it could be a screen in the visor of a humanoid robot that sort of gives you an idea of what's happening or will happen with that humanoid. And if you look at a lot of companies out there today, they don't give that many pieces of feedback to you. Like, yes, they have eyes that are cameras, but you look at it just purely from human perspective, you're like, I have no idea what's happening in your head. And culturally, I also think that creates a lot of distrust or sort of safety issues.
Yeah.
Um, I can't give you a clear answer how that interface will look like in the future, but we should sort of strive towards that as a team, at least at HelloRobo.
Yeah. That makes sense. On your website, you mentioned that you guys prioritize the commercial drivers behind your product, revenue, retention, and growth. Every feature we design supports real business goals. Sorry, I'm quoting from the website. How has that mindset shaped how you run the business and engagements with the business?
Internally, I challenge the designers every day when they come up with a solution. I say, hey, what problem does it solve, your solution, or what metric do you think it will solve, right? And same sort of set of questions we ask towards product teams on the client side. That goes back to why I chose product design as a discipline, right?
Yeah.
So while a lot of design agencies, they kind of design a lot of beautiful stuff, especially brand agencies, but we sort of try to tie our solutions to product metrics. Um, let's say even if you're operating a machine, you should probably at the end of the task tell yourself, how well did I do? And those are not just like beautiful infographics. There should be real numbers that will inform the operator, hey, you dug this much today, that's better 20% than yesterday, you did well. A lot of
Yeah.
these decisions are very metrics based.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And
Yeah.
thinking about my audience or the majority of the audience right now, if you're a startup working on sensors, robotics, automation products, how would you advise them to evaluate whether their UX or interface is more of a liability or a differentiator?
Hmm. It's an endless discussion. I have those with founders every day. Let's start with the differentiator. I don't know, to be honest. It's like it's up to a founder to decide what company they want to build. There are some, let's bring you kind of big companies like Airbnb. It's actually a design-driven company. And a founder decided that design or interface is a differentiator. I think it's hard if you're working with an agency and they try to tell you like, "Hey, we're gonna be the differentiator." Yes or no, I don't know, but I feel like it's purely up to the founder to decide it. And there are more engineering driven companies that are maybe their design is not so great, but their engineering efforts or architecture they build is really sophisticated. Um, sorry, I think I lost my train of thought to your question, but there is a practical way to understand whether you need an interface or not. Talk to your customers,
I
and
think
mhm, mhm,
for me, I mean, I'm not a UI UX interface expert by any means, but from a user standpoint, and then also when I talk to clients a lot, and we're looking at products and their um,
mhm,
their customers, being user friendly, being intuitive, and being sticky are like key
mhm,
points. I think sometimes maybe the word differentiator is the wrong word, right? Because when you've
mhm,
got like a robot that does something that adds value in your, whether it's logistics, construction, whatever it is, if it's adding value
mhm,
and has great uptime and makes you
mhm,
be productive, that's almost enough, right? But
mhm,
for you to be able to use it, for it
mhm,
to be intuitive, and you don't have to be a software engineer or robotics
mhm,
engineer, I think that's sometimes the disconnect where a technical founder or a team that's so focused on the problem instead of the experience
mhm.
um is. What do you think
Yeah,
about that? Is that
I
true in your
yeah,
world, do you think?
I 100% agree. I think in today's robotics world, I still you said it's hot like a few minutes ago. I still think it's not hot enough
Mm,
because the spotlight is still not really there. And once it's there, founders will start carrying it, and product teams will start carrying the experience. What is my first step in my journey? What's the second step and third step, so on and so forth. Um, so that's my long answer towards saying that they all should care about the experience. It's, a lot of founders would argue and say, yeah, well, that matters for consumer products. I strongly disagree. Whether you're B2B, consumer
yeah.
product, there is always your customer user journey. And maybe it starts when they step into the warehouse. Um, yeah.
I always say, even from like a, instead of B2C but B2B, we can all relate B2C, right? Like, oh,
Hmm.
I in the Apple ecosystem, that's sticky. Now I need
Hmm.
to move to Android, that would be rough, right? But you can look at it from a B2B standpoint as well. Like if you're an employee or a business user, a business owner, when you think of any new software, even if
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be hardware, any new software that you take on, if it isn't intuitive or friendly or pretty and sticky,
Hmm.
like you're not going to use, you might use it once, someone shows you the onboarding and you're like, I'm not adding a new login
Yeah.
into that again, right?
Yeah. User delight is everything, and making things not also aesthetically pleasing, but also just fun to use is everything. I want to derail this question a little bit. We have this
Yeah,
program called
please.
Robo Radio. We invite thought leaders, sometimes from robotics world. They share their experience. A few months ago, we invited this famous designer. He worked in a lot of tech companies, and we raised this topic, and he brought in a very simple but interesting analogy. He said, imagine you're going to work every day, and then you have two train stations. Both will take you to where you work, but one is just utilitarian, just a train, naked walls, but the other one is beautiful, aesthetically pleasing. Which one would you be choosing every day? And then
Yeah,
everybody said, well, obviously the other one. It does the job also, but it makes me feel better. So at the end of the day, we're human beings. We want things to be pretty.
yeah, yeah. That's a great way of describing it, right?
Yeah.
Um, you also
Mm.
emphasize market ready digital products rather than MVPs or overkill.
Yeah.
How do you decide when a robotic product has reached like a market ready interface status?
A lot of designers, design teams, or agencies, they bring this sort of vision version, and it may be absolutely beautiful, but maybe the model is not smart enough, or there are a lot of technical limitations that may not make or maybe politics, to be honest. A lot of times founders want certain things, or investors. And it's hard for product teams to build that vision version, and that is overkill. A lot of times, not only in the robotics field, like in tech companies, they want to build something that is buildable today and ready to be shipped to the existing user, let's say within a month. So, and there are bad product managers who are stripping away your design to absolute bare minimum, and that becomes MVP, but it's almost like non-usable. And when we started working with product teams, we were like, hey, we actually know that you don't really need the vision version, but you also don't want the MVP version because you want to delight your users in some way. How about we do market-ready products? And that's
Yeah,
how that term kind of emerged, and we started coining it with every client.
I like that. Let's shift gears. I know we started talking about team and the company, but I'd like to go back to that because obviously, that's a big part of what I focus on.
Mhm.
I'm curious, what's been the most challenging part of building HelloRobo in terms of people? Is it like culture or recruiting or remote versus in office, or I don't know, even clients?
Mm.
What's been challenging?
I prepared a list for you,
Oh, you
Greg.
did?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's
Fine.
just my form of saying there's so many
That's so
hard things, Greg. I
yeah.
don't know where to start, but probably if I pick only one answer, it would be people.
Mm,
At the end of the day, building an agency or service model is, building people and, gathering them together, making sure they're not bored, addressing, and because we work with designers, I mean, how can I put it? A lot of designers are more sensitive. They want to work on cool things.
yeah.
And I feel like as a leader, I need to juggle a lot of things to make sure a lot of these things on a personal level, not only on team level, are addressed. That's the number one thing, I think, is just like people and gathering them together. There is a second aspect you mentioned is remote. When the COVID started, I was so happy to work remotely. But when I started building my company, I was like, I think, and my partner also told me she built big teams before. She said if you really want to have a very successful company, they need to be under one roof. Maybe not like 5 days a week, but there should be a form of that, maybe hybrid. And as a result, like next month, we're actually opening our first office in New York. So
Awesome.
that's super exciting. So I think remote is a challenge.
Yeah.
It is a challenge, yeah. And until we gather in under one roof, once a year we meet in different places of the world, just have a team offsites, make sure everybody looks in the same direction, and just drink beer together and have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a tough one, isn't it? The remote element. I mean, I still don't know how I feel about it because I'm
How
kind of,
important? Uh-huh.
yeah,
Go
I think
ahead.
I don't know if I'm just old school or if it's the work that I've done, because I'm in the people business, right? Like whether I've been
Yeah.
in part of a HR team or part of a recruiting business, like that is um, team based. There's camaraderie. You're learning from each other. You're sharing leads. You're sharing insight and knowledge, or you're training people. And it's hard to train someone if you're not next to them because I have work to do as well, and you
Hmm.
can't like listen into someone all day or be on Zoom with them all the time. So, but then on the flip side, because I've always been in an office until I started my own business, then it's like, oh well, the efficiency of not commuting, and obviously when you're in the office with people, there's like lunchroom chats, water cooler chats, like all of this stuff. You get pulled into endless meetings, but
Hmm.
you just can't substitute that. The
Yeah.
I don't know. I still don't know
Yeah.
what the best is. I think hybrid is probably the best, right?
I
But
agree. Yeah, yeah. You still want to work in your robe in the morning and just drink
yeah,
coffee. But
yeah. Or even if
yeah,
you're on back-to-back calls, right? Like if I'm
yeah,
doing deep focused work, I don't need to be around
Yeah.
my team, because
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you, you interview a lot of people. Do you have a trend, like where X amount of or percentage of people are more interested in remote? And then when you mention, hey, this client actually wants you to be on site, is it a detractor?
Great question. The majority of clients that I work with are in person because it's hardware, right? It's
Hmm.
robotics, physical
Hmm.
element to it. So even if they don't have to be there 5 days a week, you need to be local enough to like be there 3 days, right? And that's,
Hmm.
I would probably say 90-95% of the clients that I work with, it's like that. So
Hmm.
there are certain people, and you can tell most of the time by like their location,
Hmm.
without even speaking to them, that prefer to be remote, or they're just like,
Hmm.
hey, personal situations mean I can't commute or relocate.
Hmm.
And it just stops the conversation, in all honesty. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I think if you're a business that is opening an office and having that as a policy, you need to either have an awareness to your talent pool that's local and
Hmm.
be intentional where you're going to do it. Like New York's a great place because you've got, you know, Connecticut, New Jersey, wherever, and New York's got a huge
Right.
enough population. It's also a cool city. It's just
Hmm.
expensive, right? If you're asking people to relocate there, you have to be mindful of that. Same thing in the Bay Area, you know. And then I've got clients that are like a little bit more further afield, whether they're in Orange County,
Hmm.
California, some like outskirts of Boston. It's like,
Hmm.
how many people, even in LA, actually, like outskirts of LA, like commuting is rough. So being mindful and then making um not really exceptions, but figuring out how you can make it work for that talent that you want is super important. Not just
Hmm.
because I got an office space, so if I build it, they will come type of thing. I think that's the wrong mentality to have.
Hmm.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does. Now that we talk about it, you make me think that there are probably two lenses. From the lens of the employee, I feel like they're more favored towards remote these days. But from the lens of the employer, you're like, no, of course, there should be days where we work on site together. And I feel like as an employer, I need to do extra convincing why it's important when we hire new people.
You should have, I think, more now since COVID and people like forced to be remote, right? There's more people, you'd be surprised, that wanna have an in-office presence. Some
Hmm.
people tell me I really hate working from home. Too many distractions. I don't like being in the same building all day. Like I need to, even for me, I would love a commute.
Hmm.
It's a time to turn on for work and turn off afterwards type thing. Whereas when you're working and living in the same place, there's no separation. And if you've got kids or spouse or like
Hmm.
delivery, there's way too much going on, right? But in the robotics world, I think being part of a team and being physically in the same space is super important if you're working on anything, hardware, sensors, whatever,
Hmm.
testing, deployments, all of that stuff, super important. Do you need to be there 5 days a week? I don't think so. But I'm a big proponent for people being in
Hmm.
office because camaraderie, all hands. And in a startup, things move so quickly, especially if you're in a leadership role. If you're not there,
Hmm.
you will get left out of conversations and decisions just because
Hmm.
of presence, you know?
Hmm.
So
100%.
leadership team all in New York and they're having their random meeting like, hey, this client just said something and you're not there, they're not going to dial you in. Or if you're in another meeting,
Yeah, yeah.
So there's those things to consider. And then the last point I would make is like early in your career, people, like I feel so sorry for the people that like graduated and they went straight into remote work because they never had the camaraderie, the learning, the culture, the after work drinks, the whatever it is, like you're missing that, you know?
100%. Yeah, yeah.
I think that's an
Yeah,
important part of the work life and career journey.
yeah. on a long term, do you think we're moving away from that, or we're going to come back to that?
I think we're going to come back to it.
Yeah.
There's going to be certain roles, right, and
Mm.
certain people. You can always find a remote role if you want to be a freelancer, a digital nomad, or
Hmm.
just purely a remote software engineer or support. You can find a remote role. You could be a
Hmm.
recruiter and be independent and work out of an RV. I know people that do that. That's fine, but it comes down to personal preference, right? I
Hmm.
think, and the age old thing in corporate America, and just I guess in corporations in general or businesses in general, if you want to work your way up the ladder, if you want to
Hmm.
get promotions, build a
Hmm.
team,
Hmm.
you need to be close to leadership and close to the office. Just it's
I
unfortunately
agree.
how it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, that's my. Let
Yeah.
me get off my soapbox.
And we
Yeah.
didn't talk about this much, but you mentioned that I think in one of your questions, culture is,
Yeah.
oh man, is so important. And when I used to work in companies, I would sort of question the culture function in companies. I'm like, ah, this is all kind of
Fluff.
just
Yeah.
like to entertain, yeah, bluff, really. And I when I started HelloRobo, and I also have a business coach who helps me a lot, and he convinced me saying, Shaq, you need to invest in culture. Obviously, it has to be natural. You can't
Yeah.
just imagine company values. It should feel natural. I feel like um, our current team, the way they are right now, the way they think and interact with each other, for the most part, because they have a strong culture and they have this sort of shared mission, and they all enjoy working at HelloRobo because we have a culture. I still can't fully define what is it. What does a culture mean? Like we have a design lead, Vlad. He said maybe it's just because we have a same sense of humor, and that's why we
Mm.
like each other, and that is culture. It's such an important thing, but it's hard to define sometimes.
Yeah. I think if you go into a company and start defining the culture ahead of it being real and lived, it can sometimes feel fake, right? But I think
Yeah.
after the fact, you've got the people there and you try and define it, it's harder to put into words. But I was actually going to ask you, like, what your culture, what you emphasize to keep the team strong and agile and design driven. But it sounds like
Oh, we
all the
do a
stuff that
lot
you.
of things. Yeah, yeah. We do a lot of, I believe in rituals, like just repetitive things through the year. Like obviously we have a lot of personal meetings, like one-on-ones, but then every end of the month, we have this event called Company Zoom Out where we share, oh, we do have like 5-year plans. And we also, like, let's say at the end of the month, we'll look at how we did commercially, what clients we landed, what was good or not. And that makes everybody feel like they're actually contributing to something together instead of their little gear in the system. And
Yeah.
I felt like that when I used to work at the bigger places. And I was like, I really don't want my employees to feel like that. Every end of the year, summer, we have summer break. People get tired. They're like, apart from vacation, can we just rest? And we're like, yeah, let's turn it into a ritual, and we call it summer break. And then we have company offsites. A lot of these things, I feel like these are mini bricks that make the whole culture as a one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's nice. It builds the bond and camaraderie, and you feel like you're part of the bigger picture instead of, like you said, just like a small gear, small cog.
Yeah.
Uh, for the audience of startup founders or even leaders, if they were building their own small UX team internally, how would you structure it, or how would you advise someone to structure it? Like, what roles might you prioritize, or um,
Um, in the early stages, and I'm assuming a lot of these companies, they don't have design processes
yeah,
established. I feel like that's more important than the human itself. How do you work with designers? How do designers work with engineers and product and business or data? And a lot of times, at least with existing clients, they're like, yeah, we should probably hire a design director. a lot of times those who came to that level of being design director, they're slightly jaded. They're like, like, guys, I don't want to teach you how to work with designers. So a lot of times I tell clients, you should probably hire a multidisciplinary designer who knows a little bit of product, a little bit of marketing, a little bit of business processes. And that person should be the founding designer, or like should be someone who will establish a lot of these processes. And that should be just one person to start with. It shouldn't be like, hey, let's quickly hire, 3, 4 people. And the first year of the employment of that person is going to be probably the hardest because you're going to be establishing a lot of things. I want to give a shout out to Foxglove. Ellis, their design director, is someone who actually went through that path. He doesn't know about it. Like, we spoke with him a little bit, but he actually designed almost everything, all the marketing on sort of the branding of the Actuate event. And I was like, man, who did you hire for that? He said, no, I actually did it all. Even though
Wow.
he's a design director and his specialty is product design. So that's a good example where now they have a separate design function at a company like Foxglove.
That's very cool. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're great. They're awesome, and their branding and design is very on point and fluid throughout the whole business and their events. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
shout out for sure. I'm sad I missed the event.
100%. Yeah, next
Uh,
year I'll see you.
yes, next year for sure.
Mm.
Question for you about um, within the robotics space, what you see as like a major stumbling block for UX and interfaces. Like, is it complexity or data display, the human robot collaboration? Like, what sort of stuff would you say?
It depends, if I understand your question correctly, how you look at it from different perspectives. If you look at it from a perspective of a founder or founding team, I don't think they care about the UX enough, simply because they have bigger problems to solve. Hey, does this thing fall? If it falls, can it go back up? Like, so a lot of it is very technical or R&D
Yeah,
questions. But once they start understanding the meaning of UX and importance, they start caring about it. I think Steve Jobs a long time ago said, a user doesn't care because user doesn't know. As soon as user starts knowing, he starts caring. But in terms of the actual user experience, I feel like there's not enough of onboarding or education. You buy this product or you start using it, but how do I use it? What can I do with you? And I feel like because a lot of these answers are unanswered from the product or design standpoint, there is the problem of kind of abandonment. And I feel like that
yeah,
same thing happens with ChatGPT or their new browser. Like, it's maybe hard to remember now, but when you started using it, you asked this question, what can you do? Well, you should be actually guided. It shouldn't be a blank space in front of you. You should be educated as a user a little bit. Hey, I can do this very well. How about we start with that in your journey?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. You're like out here trying to find that information for like these new tools, right? Looking who shared this
Yeah.
on a YouTube video and stuff like that, instead of it being spoon fed to you to make you adopt it better, easier in your world. And then that creates that stickiness, right?
100%.
Well, look, we are pretty much at time, but I want to ask you at least 2 more questions. So
Let's
we
do it.
could
I'll try to be
carry on going
short.
all day. No,
The
no, no,
coffee is
no. We
kicking
can.
in.
There's so much more I want to ask, but maybe we'll have to do a follow-up episode.
Sure.
Question for you about your journey as a founder, right? Looking back, are there any key leadership lessons or founder lessons that you've learned from this journey that you wish you knew at the start?
I should say I'm still young as a founder, 4 or 5 years. It, if I look back, there's one thing, maybe more, many things. Let's stick on one thing. I wish I'd done more. And I call it, sometimes I talk with my therapist about it. I want to be more playful. and almost approach this as a game and not be afraid to lose. Like I have this internal kind of fear of, oh, if you lose, if you make a mistake, everything's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Other founders sometimes call it, oh, that's being comfortable enough to risk. And I feel like I should have maybe risked more or played more and be okay with the result. I'm a type of founder who likes sort of prepping and planning, and there's a lot of discipline, which is helpful, but I feel like there should be a sort of less rigid part, and I call it be more playful.
I like that wording. Yeah. I'm kind of like that. I'm a overthinker, a planner, and I'm not very impulsive. So, but then there's probably examples you can use like, oh, if I'd acted sooner on that hunch or on that, taken that risk, then maybe that would have paid off in a different way. Right. So
I agree.
I don't know what the best thing is, especially when
Just
you're running a
probably in
business.
between. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you have people that you're responsible for and clients and all of that stuff. But, yeah, no, that's a great topic. Last thing I'd want to ask you, because you've got a unique lens now in the robotic space and automation space, and because you're similar to me, you're reaching out to new businesses to work with, and you probably get introductions to companies and technology that not everyone's aware of. What are you most excited by in the space in terms of products or offerings that are coming up in the next sort of 3 to 5 years? Is there anything that you're keeping your eye on?
It's spoiler alert, it's not humanoids companies actually. I used to, before my professional career, I used to be a breakdancer, and I loved moving and mobility.
Yeah.
Everything about moving, it always excites me. Um, a year ago, I broke my foot, and I almost wasn't able to move, and that was really scary to me. And I talk about that a lot with our team members. I guess I'll speak on their behalf, on my behalf too. We're super excited and interested about companies who are building any sort of prosthetics or helping or sort of extending your mobility and movement. I think it does good for people and it's fascinating, but also from a practical standpoint, I would bank on a company that does just one thing, but really well, instead of this sort of multifunctional robot that probably not going to do well on either of their functions.
Yeah.
Anything prosthetics or anything teleopt, I think these are fun things. They may not be too interesting from like consumer standpoint, but I feel like they're real.
Impact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
impactful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, impactful.
Yeah. The rehab tech space is pretty hot, and there's some really interesting companies that are doing stuff there, like AT Dev. Give them a shout out. They're doing some really cool
Yeah.
stuff. And then prosthetics and exoskeletons, for that, on that topic, like helping you do more as a human, whether it's strength or mobility or speed or whatever. So yeah, that's super interesting. No one said that so far, so that's cool.
Nice.
All right, Shaq. Well, look, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Sharing everything about HelloRobo and your journey and design and interfaces in general. I think it's something we haven't talked about much on the show previously, and it's really great to have like an expert talk about their opinions and input and some success stories. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. How can our listeners learn more about you and follow along or reach out for some info?
Two things: our website hellorobo.co or LinkedIn. Me and my team members, they're all very active on LinkedIn. We always post and share mini researches on LinkedIn. So I guess our website and LinkedIn.
Perfect. Okay, we will link those in the show notes, and you and I will definitely be staying in touch.
Cool. Thank you. Cheers.
Take care, Shaq.